So The Watchmen is kind of like an obvious when it comes to like tell us about some books that influenced you as a writer or storyteller. But contextually, it's so different from any other comic book that it really opened my mind to playing with the form of things. My name is Jason Torres. I'm a writer, producer, and director, and I'm here in Iowa City to speak at the University of Iowa to the English department in a workshop that I'm calling the Nonlinear Writer. It's about how storytelling and narrative matters and can be found in a lot of different places. Being an English major can lead down a path that many wouldn't think. I tried to find books that influenced me in ways beyond just my career, books that influenced me early on as a kid and helped me develop into the person that I, eventually became. So Kitchen Confidential, Anthony Bourdain. I love food. I love cooking. I love serving food. It's my love language. It's how I make people feel seen and appreciated. So I'm attracted to anything having to do with food and anything involving people who are passionate about food as well. And his passion for food and exploration are really infectious. He's obviously a great writer. This isn't like a little known book, but this is a book that kept me company at a time where I had to travel back and forth from Baltimore to New York a lot. And, it was a comfort book because I like seeing the world through his eyes. And I like that his voice is reckless, but also very intentional and deliberate. And the way that he speaks about adventure and food and passion is just something that always resonated with me. Next up is Hanging Henry Gambrill by Tracy Matthew Melton is a book that was given to me when I first started working at the Baltimore City paper. And it was handed to me as like if you want to know about Baltimore, read this book. And the only way I can describe it, well, not the only way, but a way to describe it would be like the movie Gangs of New York or Peaky Blinders, but set in Baltimore. I'm originally born and raised in New York. I went to Baltimore to go to school. I went to Morgan State University, and learning the history of a town through like the violence that occurred in the 1850s is a really fascinating way to, discover a city. And it's just a fascinating book. It's a reminder that every town, every city has like a complicated past. And yeah, I just think that it was like a really interesting read. And if you like Peaky Blinders or Gangs of New York, it is an interesting snapshot of a time in Baltimore that a lot of people don't think about. Most people think of The Wire when they think about Baltimore, which is a whole separate thing. But this is, we're talking like 100 years before that. Yeah, it's a thing that I share with people who are interested in Baltimore. Reading Pleasures by Tara Bynum. This book expanded how I thought about Black life in the 1800s. Because usually when you think of that time period, you think of like suffering and atrocities. But this gave me insight into like joy and curiosity and imagination, but especially joy in a way that I did not think existed at that time. So that was really cool. It was really eye opening, and it's really fun to learn new things and have your perception shift. After believing one thing for so long. So The Watchmen is kind of like an obvious when it comes to like tell us about some books that influenced you as a writer or storyteller. But I was late to The Watchmen, right? And when I say late, I mean like 17, 18, right? I think because it came out way before that. But contextually, it's so different from any other comic book um, that it really opened my mind to playing with the form of things. For years, people said like it would make a great movie, but you could never really do it. And they did make a movie and it's fine, but it doesn't really reflect the way that the story unfolds in the book. Like it's a complete departure from what audiences were used to, even what I was used to at that time. Even though it had already, by the time I got to it, it had already influenced a few other things. I really sat with it like, like I didn't think you could do that in the comic book genre. So that was really interesting and fascinating. And it did in a way help me think like all structure is malleable. it's right before I started writing for my school newspaper, and my best friend and I wrote editorial column called Rants and Raves, and not like it was a direct influence, but it did influence the fact that like we could break away from the normal structure, and even got criticized for doing so. But it was like it made it okay to feel rebellious doing things, that you could break out of the confines of what was expected. Langston Hughes is obviously an icon. I'm born and raised in Harlem. This is someone who I remember seeing their books on the bookshelf at my grandmother's house. And when you're young, you don't realize that you're absorbing something that's iconic. It's just like, this is a dusty book in my grandma's house. But over time, and then realizing the importance, it's someone who I pay close attention to. Specifically, the poem "The Island," which is like super short, but it packs a lot into really like 8 lines about like despair and perseverance and calm when there should be panic, which is something that I relate to a lot, just because like, life is ridiculous and my life has not always been great. And there have been moments where, maybe I should have panicked. But a lot of people generally that I know say that like I'm really calm under pressure. So it's like, if you could have a a poem that's a theme song, you know what I mean? It would be one written by Langston. So I'll say that.